Hello everyone and welcome back to another election analysis video. But before we start, I would really appreciate it if you guys pause and take a second to please subscribe to my YouTube channel and help me grow my platform. Anyways, today we're going to be going over Donald Trump's presidential campaign, and just as we did with Kamala Harris yesterday, we are going to fill out this electoral map I have right here and try and predict what a realistic best case scenario would look like for Donald Trump on election day this November. So first, I'm going to address why, in the first place, I am making a video of what a Trump landslide would look like, despite the fact the outcome of this election is looking very uncertain. So, like I said, this election is looking like it's going to be very close, with the betting odds for each candidate on Polymarket being around dead even. However, the truth is that there's a good case to be made of why Trump should feel good about his position right now in the race, as many former Democrats have come out and endorsed him, as well as there being a large increase in Republican voter registration in many key battleground states. In addition, Trump is polling the highest he has ever done historically. If we go to Real Clear Politics, for example, he's currently only down by 1.5%, but historically speaking, he was down by 7 in 2020 when he was defeated, and was only down by 6 in 2016 when he won. And on top of that, his polling in many of the key swing states is either above Harris or really close to outperforming her, just as he did in 2020. Just look at these tables that compare his current polling to his historic polling, as well as this table from Nate Silver, who, again, I trust to be the most accurate political forecaster. Just look at this table from Nate Silver, which shows how, even in defeat, Trump massively outperformed the polls in 2020. Oh, and just before I continue, I do feel obligated to share with you guys that right now, Trump's probability of winning is the highest it's ever been in the history of Nate Silver's election forecasting, with the exception of like 2 days in 2020. However, I will say that many people have argued, and I can see that this might be a possibility. Many people have argued that Trump will not outperform the polls like he did historically because, for example, the Democrats outperformed the polls in 2020, and Trump is much more of a known character now than he was when he first ran for president in 2016 and in 2020. But I've talked on long enough, and you guys obviously clicked on this video for a prediction, and I'm going to give that to you. So as we start filling out the map, I feel I should tell you guys that I classified the states you see filled out here as safe because according to 538's election model, they're projected to go to their winning candidate by 10 points or more, which is why you see a state like New Mexico, which is only projected to go to its candidate by 10 flat, while you don't see New Mexico filled out, for example. But obviously, as we start filling out the map, we'll be able to determine whether or not Trump has a realistic chance of flipping these seats. And the way I'm going to determine about whether or not Trump has a realistic chance of flipping a seat is I'm going to go to the 2020 Wikipedia page, and we're going to go to the results, and we're going to see how far it's feasibly possible for a state's margin to swing from election to election. And if you go through here, like I mentioned before, I'm not going to include Vermont, which swung the most at 9% for Joe Biden. I'm not going to count Vermont because the election before had a Bernie Sanders write-in campaign that took away votes from Hillary, so I'm not going to include that. Instead, I'm going to use the next state, which swung by 8% to the left, Colorado. I'm going to use that state swing as like the limit of how much I believe it to be possible for a state to swing in either a left or right direction. So as we start filling out this map, I want you guys to know that basically I'm going to be swinging all of the states to the left by around 8 points to see how they would look like in a +8 Republican environment. So let's get starting with filling out the map. So first, let's go with the states that Trump is pretty likely to win. And obviously states such as Texas, Florida, Ohio, and Iowa are all expected to go to him by a pretty safe margin. And arguably, at least in my opinion, I project the states of Iowa and Ohio, Trump to win them by more than 10 points. And now let's go on to the big 7 swing states. And in a best case scenario for Trump, I do see Trump being able to take off all of the big 7 swing states. However, I do expect Michigan to be his weakest state out of all of them. And now let's go on to the congressional districts. And in a Trump best case scenario, he would hold on to Maine's 2nd district, and he would take back Nebraska's 2nd district and carry it just like he did in 2016. And once we fill that out, it honestly becomes really hard to imagine Trump being able to carry any one of these swing states that we have left. However, it becomes a little easier to fill out this prediction map once we go to the 538 election forecast, and we see that already 2 states, Maine and New Mexico, are out of range of the 8-point swing to the right I deem possible, with Maine projected to go to the Democrats by 9% and New Mexico projected to go to the Democrats by 10% flat. So yeah, we can safely say that even in a Trump best case scenario, New Mexico and Maine are out of range for Trump. Same with Minnesota, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, the popular governor there is literally the candidate for vice president on the Democratic ticket. So yeah, I don't think Trump can be able to take it. And now we move on to Virginia. And even though Virginia has a really popular Republican governor, the fact that Joe Biden was able to carry this state in 2020 by 10% plus honestly makes me feel like this state is too far out of reach for Trump. And even in a redder environment, I find it really hard to imagine the state swinging 10% to the right in just one election cycle. And now we're left with New Hampshire, where I still find it very hard to believe Donald Trump can pull it off and carry the state. If we go to 538's model, we can see that they project New Hampshire is projected to go to the Democrats by around 6.5%. And while that is somewhat safely within the margin of an 8% swing to the right I deem possible, the fact is that this state has not voted for a Republican president since the year 2000, and on top of that, this state has been trending left ever since 2016. However, I guess I will put it into the Republican column in a Trump best case scenario, only because Trump barely lost the state by like 2,000 votes in 2016, and because he lost the state by a less than 8% margin in 2020. So there you guys have it. Here's what I predict a Donald Trump victory would look like under a best case scenario for him. His 317 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 221 electoral votes. Now, beyond this, I find it really hard to imagine that Trump can win any more states other than the ones I laid out for him right here, because beyond his safe states and the big 7 swing states, his support across the country is really shallow, even in New Hampshire. However, despite me saying this, I do not want to be clickbaity with this video's thumbnail that says, quote, 400 plus electoral votes, landslide, question mark, end quote. So since I do not want to be clickbaity, I am going to show you what a hypothetical Trump 400 plus electoral vote victory would look like, even though I do not see Trump winning any states beyond these ones I laid out right here. So anyways, in order to reach 400 plus electoral votes, Trump would need to win Minnesota, Virginia, Maine, Colorado, New Mexico, Oregon, Illinois, New Jersey, and Delaware, and reach 401 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 137. But yes, let's be honest, that is not going to happen because our country is too polarized and Trump is not that nationally popular, and since Kamala Harris has excited the Democratic base a lot. But yet again, there you guys have it. Here's my prediction of a Trump best case scenario victory, his 317 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 221. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you guys later.